Welcome back to another episode of the Field of 68 Mid-Major Show with Sean Paul and my co-host Brian Burton. Brian, how you doing? Thanksgiving. You've been on the road a little bit, calling SMU against Louisiana Monroe, a game that ended up being pretty good. How's your Thanksgiving going, and how was the game?
Yeah, it's been good. Always good to be able to get some good food, home cooked, and been able to call some really good games. I've called Texas A&M number 13 in the country. I've called number 4 Colorado and number 4 women's basketball, and then
Mm-hmm.
now Louisiana Monroe was up against SMU in the
It
first
was a good
half.
game.
It was a good game, one that Sean Paul probably tunes into, one of many.
I
Um,
did watch that one. I watched the second half because I was like, all right, maybe there's something here with UL Monroe. They looked okay in the first half. I didn't watch a ton of the first half, but once we got into the second half, I'm like, all right, let's see. And then Zurich Phelps just went off in the second half, and it was game over from there.
yeah, he took over. Yeah, I enjoy the broadcasting space. It's been fun. I got almost 50 games again this year, so rocking and rolling. But tell me this: what do you love about November when it comes to college basketball?
Honestly, I will say probably the biggest thing I love is seeing freshmen who really just come out of nowhere and become absolute dudes, like guys that people are going to talk about nationally, guys that people are going
Yep.
to remember. And that one for me right now is Malik Mack from Harvard. I think we talked about him a little bit on the last episode, but this dude just dropped like 25 points at Indiana. He's been one of the best guards in college basketball so far as a scorer. The way he's able to do it, he's a smooth lefty, he's fast, he's creative. And this is a dude that goes to Harvard. Like he's playing the Ivy League. He'll probably be there all 4 years because you're probably not transferring from an Ivy League school. You want that degree. He's going to be an absolute monster over the next couple of years and maybe one of the more talented players we've seen in the Ivy League in quite some time. So if you haven't gotten a chance to watch Harvard yet, Malik Mack is must watch television.
Yeah, he's gotten several awards from us at Field of 68
Mm-hmm.
for nightly award and for uh, last week as the breakout player of the week. Big time player, definitely, and he's led them to now being in the top 25. They're number 25 at our new
In
poll,
our
which we'll get to
Cinderella
here.
top 25.
Yeah, our Cinderella top 25. I would say real quick, similar to you, it's just cool to see you all off season. You hear about this recruit, that recruit, this transfer. You get all these projections, and then you get to see stuff come to life. So there's people that exceed expectations. There's people that aren't on the radar. I just love November because you kind of start to get a feel of what these teams are going to look like. So uh,
Exactly.
with that, let's get into our Cinderella top 25. We'll go top five first. Our number one team still remains JMU. Number two, Liberty. Moving up to number three, we got drum roll, please. Um, I'll let you surprise the people with what's 3, 4, and 5.
All right, Bradley coming in at number 3. Right now, they're probably the best team in the Missouri Valley. We'll get into that one a little bit later here. Number 4, UC Irvine, top 70 in Ken Palm right now. And number 5, the Princeton Tigers, who I will talk about a little bit here. They've been highly impressive so far this year. They're 6-0. They have covered the spread in all 6 games they've played. They played Rutgers. They played Hofstra. They played Duquesne. They played some legitimately good teams, and yet they have been able to win all of these games. They've been able to cover the number that Vegas put out there. And the reason they've done so is because of their new trio. Last year, they had Tosan, Ryan Langborg, and Keyshawn Kelman that were just huge pieces for them in that Cinderella run. This year, it's Xavier Lee, who played very sparing minutes last year. You have Madalako, who was a starter last year, but now he's taken another jump. And then you have Caden Pierce, who was a starter, but he's more featured in the offense. He had a really low usage rate last year. He's getting more shots up this year, and he's one of the most consistent rebounders in college basketball. And I think one thing you can say about Princeton, yes, they have the roster. Yes, they have really good pieces, but at some point, you have to give the coaching credit too for being able to keep up that level of success after a strong tournament run like that, losing all the pieces you lost, completely changing your identity. And now they've done it through the guards, and they are going to be one of the best mid-major teams in college basketball this season. Between them, Yale, Harvard, it's going to be a really fun race in the Ivy League this year.
Yeah, I love everything you said about that. And I think people weren't expecting them to bounce back from that tournament team, losing some of the pieces they lost, as
Yep.
you mentioned. Been super impressive. And I think something to think about with Princeton is they're going to have a chance maybe not to go undefeated the rest of the way, but they're going to have a chance to win all their non-conference games because they don't play any Power Fives per se left. And then they get to conference play. Now, the Ivy is very tough. I don't expect them to run a table, but they have a chance to have an elite record when this is all said and done.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Do you want to get into six through 10?
Yeah, let's go 6. So we got Drake at number 6. They were previously started the year number 1. They took a tough L to Stephen F. Austin, who's jumped into the poll. And then they bounced back well. And then number 7, Western Carolina, undefeated still, playing some really good basketball. A team you picked as team of the week last week. UNCG has been hot. They just won themselves a classic and a tournament over Feast Week, playing some really good basketball, got a top 25 win as well. And then Vermont has played a really tough schedule. They played some of the best teams on this poll, Liberty and Bradley, along with early on beating College of Charleston when they were ranked pretty high. So who would you like to talk about in those 5?
I mean, Grand Canyon, they had a really tough game the other night against North Dakota State, who really came in leading by double figures in the first half. And what it really came down to was Gabe McLaughlin hit 3 huge threes down the stretch. I was watching that when the fan base got into it. You already know those Grand Canyon fans, they get into it. They're one of the best fan bases in the country. But when you have a guy like Ty and Grant Foster, when you have a guy like Rayshawn Harrison, those are your 2 guys. And then you have a third guy like Gabe McLaughlin who can make those big shots, get those big rebounds. It's always a luxury to have that many pieces. But perhaps what I'm most interested in what Grand Canyon did is they went small a lot in that second half. They played McLaughlin at the 5, Grant Foster at the 4, and Isaiah Shaw at the 3, who's also a very talented player. His father's on the coaching staff too. But I really like what that team has because they have that lineup flexibility. If you want to go big, you can play Sidney Curry at the 5, emphasize defense or offense down low. If you want to go emphasizing defense, you can play Duke Brennan with Gabe McLaughlin at the 4. There's just so many different ways you can go, and that is really the sign of a great team to me. So Grand Canyon was really impressive.
Yeah, Grand Canyon's coming in at number 9. I don't even know if I mentioned that. But yes, very good. And I love the fact that Ty and Grant Foster's had one of the best stories, if not the best story. Kind of reminds you of what we saw last year at Kansas State with Johnson, who's now in NBA, doing a good job. And he had a comeback story from an injury, very similar. Thought he wasn't going to be able to play anymore. Sat out some time. Was originally a JUCO product at Indian Hills, and then went up to not Indian Hills. He was at
he was Indian Hills.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay,
yeah.
Indian
Then
Hills,
Kansas, then DePaul.
He went to Kansas, then DePaul. So yeah, just to be able to, he's now averaging 22 points a game. He's shooting 38% from 3 and 52 from the field. I mean, he's easily right now looking like an All-American type player, a player that can be player of the year in the WAC, just almost an unguardable player at that level so far, and how efficient he's been. So not only an awesome comeback story and a talented dude, but he's on a team that has a chance to really make a lot of noise. So I love what GCU is doing as well. Going through the next 5, Weber State's at 11, who got an early win against St. Mary's. They have one of the best players in the country. Yale at 12. One of the hottest teams right now, Evansville, which we'll talk a little bit with their coach later this episode. UNCW at 14, and then Akron at 15.
For me in this little segment, I'm curious to see. We'll talk more about Evansville, obviously, with Coach Ragland, but the way that they were able to win that game the other day against Chattanooga really showed me what this team is about. Because when you're down 20 with like 10 minutes left, most teams are, just chucking up threes. They're ready to mail it in. The game's over. But Evansville was able to come back. They were able to force some turnovers. They were hitting threes. And as Coach Ragland told us later, you need one stop and one score. And that's really what they were doing. They're treating it possession by possession. They beat a really good Chattanooga team that's also ranked in our poll. So Evansville is not just some flash in the pan. This team can play. I'm expecting them to win quite a few games this season.
Yeah, they look good. And another team with super efficient numbers from the field. I mean, they're holding opponents under 40, and then they're shooting over 50 offensively and averaging, I think, 16 assists a game. So really distributing the rock, sharing the ball, and they got a big time player, obviously, who you've mentioned a little bit already, and Coach clarified how we say his name correctly. But Big Ben is what I'm going to call him for short.
Humrickhouse, Ben Humrickhouse.
There we go. That's why we got Sean to be able to do the heavy.
Ignore in the interview how I incorrectly said it. That didn't happen. That wasn't me.
Yeah, just a big time player. Got a great story. Came from NAI and averaging 19 a game, and looking forward to seeing what that Evansville squad continues to do. They've already won more games this year than they did all of last year. They only won 5 last year. They're 6-0 right now. So one of the best stories in college hoops right now. Going from 16 to 20, Colgate is at 16. Long Beach, who's been high and low, they've had an erratic kind of start and kind of no more tops, highs and lows than they have had as far as wins and losses. But they're at 17. McNeese is at 18. Indiana State, a new team, is at 19. And then Chattanooga is at 20.
I mean, if you're not watching Indiana State basketball, I really don't know what to tell you, because when you have an elite offensive minded head coach like Josh Schertz, who emphasizes NBA principles, the 5-out, the spacing, the shooting, the skilled bigs like Robbie Avila, who has been one of the more productive big men in the country this season, averaging over 20 points per game, 5 assists, 5 rebounds. He's honestly like the Missouri Valley Jokic. Just he's not athletic, but he's so smart. He's able to find lanes. He's a great passer. He'll find you if you're cutting. He'll find a wide open shooter. He gets some great velocity on his passes, and he's a really skilled driver and can shoot it too. I mean, this dude is an awesome player, and if you haven't gotten the chance to watch him yet, you need to, because Indiana State is really good, and it expands further than him. I mean, Isaiah Swope, a guy that was playing D2 basketball 2 years ago before Southern Indiana made the jump to the D1 level. He transferred from Southern Indiana to Indiana State, and he's averaging 17 points per game. He's been great so far. So this Indiana State, they're going to have a say in whatever happens in that Missouri Valley, which we'll talk about later, of course.
As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook for this college basketball season. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks and predictions throughout the college basketball season. And we are going to have special offers for you, the listeners and the viewers on the Field of 68 each and every week during the season. If you haven't signed up with BetMGM yet, use the bonus code FIELD1500 and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager on BetMGM Sportsbook. Here's what you got to do. Download the BetMGM app. Sign up using the bonus code FIELD1500. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if that bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code FIELD1500 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available under one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient for me when I have to go cover games in New York or Philly. When crossing state borders, just log into your existing account instead of having to create new accounts in each state that you go to. And most importantly, I got to let you know, we do have some fun stuff coming up for this college basketball season. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boosts, my personal favorite, parlay odds boosts. So download the BetMGM app today.
All right, here we are, Sean, Paul, and Brian Burton with Evansville head coach David Ragland, who's enjoying a 6-0 beginning to the season. They won 5 games all of last year. So just want to start out, how you doing today, Coach? How's that winning feeling?
No, it feels pretty good. I think I can get used to it. No, doing good. No real complaints. Had a good week last week. It's Thanksgiving week. So a lot to be thankful for. A group that is hardworking and connected, and again, just went and had a business trip in Chattanooga, and came out 2-0, but also got an opportunity to hang out, fellowship with our friends and family that made the trip. Probably had about 85 to 100 fans, and that came out to the game, which speaks volume to our fan base, but also the commitment to our family and friends that made the trip. So no, it's a pretty good feeling, and like I said, just surrounded by a lot of really good people and my coaching staff and the players and our family, friends, and fan base.
Absolutely. So before I kick it over to my partner here, my first question to you is going to be about your star player, Ben Humrichis. Where did you find this guy? Because he was an NAIA player, and now he's averaging 17 for a school that's 6-0 at the Division I level. Hit 27 points against Chattanooga. He had 3 or 4 big threes. Where'd you find this guy, and how has he become such a valuable piece for your program?
Yeah, I hate to be that guy, but it took us some time to first off pronounce his last name, which is Homework House.
Oh, wow.
He
Okay.
actually sat down and he had to like break it down to the entire staff, and we had to sit down on how to properly pronounce his last name. But,
yeah, I just got schooling there for sure.
Yeah. Hey, I'm just passing along. They said to pay it forward, so
yeah, it's good to know,
doing.
actually. Yeah.
and he's also averaging 19 a game now, I think.
Yeah, he might be. Yeah, he might be. No, he it worked out perfectly. How just being here over a span of time. Ironically, a couple of factors played into it. He played for Huntington College previous to coming here to Evansville, and we actually played an exhibition game against them last year. And his head coach, Corey Alford, is the son of Steve Alford, who played at IU and has strong ties to Indiana, and now the head coach at Nevada. But Craig Snow, one of my associate head coach, one of the assistants, he worked under Steve Alford and actually coached Corey. So we believe in recruiting to our contacts, and the guys, the individuals that know you, that trust you, that respect you. Not only want to see the student athletes that they have do well, but also want to see us do well as coaches. So that relationship played a strong part in Ben being here. And then Marcus Wilson, who was previously on our staff with us last year, was really close with his workout guy, Jared Newsom, who was very instrumental. Sorry, it's like saying Hummer House.
Yeah, exactly. It's a tongue twister.
in his recruiting process. So, with their connection, with Craig's connection, with his coach, and then the other part is being a smart. He knew what he was looking for, and a style of play, and the coaching staff, and the community, and the University of Evansville, and our coaching staff, and our community just fit a lot of what Ben was looking for. So, match made in heaven.
Yeah, I want to ask now, is Steve Alford calling his son like, hey, how did this kid not end up coming?
Yeah.
He could play at that level, no doubt.
I would say their Thanksgiving meal probably got a little awkward.
I would say so. Yeah, talk about what this means for you, Coach. I mean, you're a hometown kid. You're back in Evansville. Last year, well documented, was a challenging year, only 5 wins. Now you have 6 wins. You have more than last year. I'm sure the elephant in the room is like, how did you do it? Obviously, recruiting players like that, but then what is this like being home and being able to have that kind of turnaround?
Yeah, the University of Evansville and the community of Evansville means a lot to me. Growing up here, born and raised in Evansville, and going away to school in Joplin, Missouri for 2 years, and then coming back to finish my education and my playing career at the University of Southern Indiana. I mean, it's a big part of my life, and the individuals in the community are influential in the person that I am, and the University of Evansville men's basketball program. When I was growing up, and I visited the Roberts Stadium a ton to watch the teams play. Coached by Jim Cruz back in the late 80s, early 90s, through the 90s. Just watch the teams that play so hard and competed at a high level and played for each other. It helped me grow my love and appreciation for the game of basketball. and the importance of working hard on my own individual game and being a great teammate. Just watching that type of basketball and growing my love for it. Then when the opportunity came across to become the head coach here, it was something that I couldn't refuse and say no to. It just made a lot of sense to my family and I to come back and revive a story program. And, for us, being able to have some time as a staff to really communicate our philosophies offensively and defensively, and then implement what we want to do on both ends of the floor with our group that we had time to recruit that really fit our style of play, guys that are skilled, that can dribble, pass, and shoot, that helps them make really good decisions, guys that are self-starters, guys that work on their game religiously, and guys that can be in the classroom just like they do on the floor. But, we had an opportunity to bring a special group of young men together and put a plan of attack together, what we call a blueprint to success, academically, socially, and athletically, for a really good group of not only good players, but even better people. It's all starting to come together. And, when we talked about this as a staff, and we explained that vision to the young men and the families that we recruited, we also told them that we would have opportunities. A lot of people look at this job before us as a challenging one. And I think challenges are opportunities that people either run from or they run toward. And we want to run toward an opportunity to revive the story program. In the course of doing that, you're going to do some special things. You can do things that haven't been done here in a while, maybe in like 59 years. But you also have an opportunity to do things that haven't been done here before. It's the first time in the Division I era that University of Evansville has been 6-0. Started the season 6-0. So we're also creating our own history. And there's a lot of great memories, fond memories that our fan base, myself, and others remember about Robert Stadium. And we have an opportunity to create those same memories in the Forest Center. So, it's a great feeling to be back home. It's a great feeling to lead a story program. It's an even better feeling to be surrounded around quality individuals in my staff that are just talented, but also really, really good people, leading a group of young men that are connected, that are hardworking, and that truly love each other.
I mean, you said it, numbers don't lie, 6-0, best start in program history. And a big reason for the 6-0 start is your guys' defense only allowing 75 points in one game. And that was against Chattanooga, a game you guys won, obviously. What is it about your defense that is so effective?
Yeah, that's what we talked about. And, part when we were discussing how we're going to make this vision of turning around this program and creating a championship program, how we're going to make that vision a reality is teams that win championships defend and rebound. And if you're going to be a really, really good team, you're going to be a successful team, you got to commit to defending and rebounding. And we got a group that committed to it. I've had a couple mentors tell me that if you want a team to be good on both ends of the floor, you recruit offense and you coach defense. And for us, we felt like we recruited some offensive minded and some offensively talented young men, and our philosophy need to be implemented the right way. And a lot of your philosophy is mindset. And we just told our guys that we have to have the right mindset. We have to want to defend. We have to want to rebound. It's your will to want to do it that makes the implementation and the philosophy what it is. And we told our guys, Coach Snow is in charge of our defense. He had a great message to our group. The first day that we started to install our defense, he just said, look, we're going to give you different philosophies and different coverages, different defensive or ball screen coverages. We're going to do all of those things. We're going to talk right-hand drivers and left-hand drivers and shooters, left shoulder guys, right shoulder guys. But at the end of the day, there's two things that you need to lock in on doing. That's play as hard as you possibly can and communicate at the highest level you possibly can. And, just being able to I guess, simplify that for our group gave them the confidence that they needed to be able to execute what they've been able to do defensively and for us to implement what we have. Then the buy-in, they completely have come to being a defensive-minded team and being a tough, gritty team. We've got a hard body belt that we give out after each game now. But
love that.
When we hand it out, we all bark. Can we say we got a bunch of dogs on the team? So
who won it for the last game?
Well, I'm sorry.
Who won it in the last game?
Joshua Hughes, freshman from Australia. He had 21 points, 6 rebounds. He had 3 assists with no turnovers, and they had him for, I want to say, 3 blocks. We felt like it was more. So the players voted. They've taken ownership of it. Kenny Strawbridge won it first after he reached 1,000 career points in Ball State. He actually had 6 rebounds, 5 assists, no turnovers, and 5 steals. He won the first belt. The second belt was given to Jim Homer's house after his game against Chattanooga. Missouri. They quickly gave him that belt. And then after the last game, Joshua Hughes earned it with his football.
Coach, what so many things we could ask you about, because obviously this is one of the coolest stories in college basketball right now. What did you learn about your team in that overtime game? You're down as much as 20. Obviously, you took defensive stats. Your offensive stats are impressive too. You're shooting 50% from the field. A team that makes 6 threes a game, has 16 assists a game, very limited turnovers, only 10 turnovers a game. So what is it about your team? What was the huddle like when you were down 20, and what did you learn about your team when you came back and won on the road?
Well, I learned that they're a very resilient group. Coming out of the summer, we discussed as a staff, what are our strengths? What are our areas of improvement? We don't like to look at them as weaknesses. It's just areas that you can improve and be better. And, some of the question marks we had was how competitive and how physical our team was. Mainly because we did a bunch of skill, building confidence up, breaking down our offense and compartmentalizing, how we want to split it up to make it holistic. So when we came out, we just didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. And, over time, our team showed a good level of competitiveness, and we showed that we could be physical without fouling. That's what we came out of the game, just knowing that we were a resilient group. But at the time, it was 11 minutes and 40 seconds left on the clock, and it was immediate timeout. And I just looked up at the group, and I just asked them, we have a pretty mature group. And what I love about them is I don't do a bunch of screaming, yelling, any of it. We tell our group that, if you act like a man, we're going to treat you like a man. So just be mature, be emotionally mature, and approach every day the same way. This is like mentality. So I just looked at the group and I told them, I was like, all right, do we believe? You guys believe? They all looked at me and they shook their head. I'm like, all right, that's the first step. Believing is the first step. Next step is like executing and doing what we know to do for the next minute and 40 seconds. We have Like that's a minute, 11 minutes and 40 seconds is an eternity. That's a very, very long time in basketball. And we need to compartmentalize the situation. And I believe we were going on actually the free throw line. So we we're about to shoot free throws. We often in practice segments and live play where we do stop and score. And we just told the group we need to get a stop, then a score. Possession by possession, chip away, get a stop and a score. And then we need to take each stop and score and turn it into a 4-minute game, which we do every day, very, very often in practice. And then we just want to win every 4 minutes. And the crazy thing about it, in the moment, a lot of us probably adrenaline. I'm like, man, we cut that lead from 20 to no time. And then when I watched it back on Sunday or Saturday on the way back, I'm watching the game and there's 9 minutes left in the game. We're still down 16. There's 6 minutes left in the game. We're still down 15 or 14. I'm like, man, I thought it happened a lot quicker than what it did. Finally, at the 2-minute mark is when we were down 3, and then with a minute to go, we went up 2. But again, we tell our guys that it's not about your situation ever in life or on the basketball floor. It's about how you respond. And as long as you respond the right way, and you can string together some stops and score, and you're consistent in that, you always give yourselves a chance. So, just a resilient group, a very connected group. As the game went on, it's funny, our huddle went from, guys are probably a step or two away from the seats that sit in front of me to they were on top of the seats. And I looked toward the end of it, and it was the last media timeout. And even going into our overtime, and I'm like, look at this, man. Like we're close, we're connected, and this is how it should always be. Like this is what matters. This circle matters. This group matters, and nothing else that goes on outside of it does matter. And to their credit, they responded the right way and believed in each other and the game plan, and I was able to be resilient enough to turn out to get a win.
Yeah, thanks again to Coach David Ragland for coming on the show, the head coach of the 6-0 Evansville Purple Aces. As we've said on here, next they'll face Missouri State, a road game in Missouri Valley play. So good luck and stay healthy in that one. And that'll do it for Sean, Paul, and Brian Burton. Best of luck the rest of the way, Coach.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, and go Aces.
Yeah, I love Division II coaches being able to make the move up. We've seen it happen a lot. Chris Beard obviously comes to mind. Grant McCastin was a Division II head coach who I got a chance to work under. So
yeah, I was gonna say, surely you have no connection to him.
Yeah, not at all, not at all. But I just love guys coming from that level. My younger brother, also was a Division II head coach. That's now a women's head coach at North Texas, and has the best start in the women's basketball history of their program. So Division II coaches can coach, and I love the fact we talked about an NAIA player already and how him moving up, and now you got a D2 coach who's leading this program with a D2 player who's leading the team in scoring in Swope, who you talked about. So I love what Indiana State's doing. They're kind of under the radar in the Missouri Valley, but definitely a team that can make some noise as it keeps going. And in the last 5, we got Stephen F. Austin, new team at 21. We got La Tech at 22, who's probably a little bit underrated.
Probably a little bit.
Yeah, because their only loss is to a Colorado State team who is now number 20 in the country. So La Tech is definitely a team. They got a big matchup upcoming against New Mexico. So we'll get to see exactly how good that La Tech team is, led by Talvin Hester in his year 2. Hawaii, 23. Portland State is at 24. They did not play last week. And then Harvard jumped in at 25.
I like Hawaii. They're a really interesting team, and I think they have a chance to really compete in the Big West. Obviously, UC Santa Barbara picked up a big win. They'll be back in this poll next week. I can almost assure you of that. After beating Fresno State, they look really good. AJ Mitchell, 27 points. They're fully back. But Hawaii is going to be a contender in the Big West because they have some really good guards with Noel Coleman and Jovan McClanahan. The two are averaging 27 points per game combined. Noel Coleman's an elite scorer. McClanahan's one of the more clutch players in college basketball. Always seems like he's making a big shot. He's great at getting to his spots. He's quick. And honestly, another big piece of what this Hawaii team does, they have a lot of size. Justin McCoy coming over from North Carolina. Bernardo da Silva's been around forever. More Sec, a 7-footer. They just have so many different pieces in that front court to rotate, help out the guards. I think Hawaii is going to be a great team this year. They have a chance to win the Big West and make it to the tournament.
Yeah, the Big West is, I mean, we've had so many teams that we've talked about. UC Irvine, you just mentioned AJ Mitchell and what he's able to do as a guard for UCSB. Not to mention Long Beach is in there that's talented and they can get going. But this team in Hawaii is definitely one that they start getting a little more tested. They got Utah coming up on Thursday.
It's a tough one. They just beat St. Mary's.
Yeah, there's St. Mary's, and Utah's a really good Pac-12 team that's kind of picking their stride. And then they got Nevada at the end of December. So I like
another good team.
I like what I see from this Hawaii team. They're definitely going to have some more tests as they come up, and they have the Diamond Head over Christmas, which is always a good time. So if you don't get a chance to see Hawaii on national television, the Diamond Head will be a great time to be able to do that.
Great chance.
Yeah, during the Christmas time.
And if you're just up really late at night on like the East Coast one day and you just have nothing to do, I'm telling you, it's better than just flipping through Netflix and trying to find something to watch for an hour. Just put on Hawaii basketball and you'll have a good night. Get the popcorn ready. Something wild always happens, whether it's basketball related or not. Maybe you'll have a coach getting tossed, want to go hit the beach early. I don't know. You don't know what's going to happen out there in the on the island over there.
I don't know if anybody's ever heard that together. Watch Hawaii basketball, get the popcorn ready. I like it though.
It's fun. I would do it. I've probably done it. Maybe.
As Jeff Goodman says to Sean sometimes, go touch some grass, Sean.
I can touch grass while eating my popcorn and watching Hawaii.
You can do it outside on your phone.
Exactly.
Yeah. There you go. We'll have to pass that one along to Jeff. Next let's just talk about what's some of the headlines of the week that you thought were some of the bigger headlines.
I mean, honestly, for me, I think the biggest headline is we're recording this on a Tuesday, and yesterday, Oakland went to Xavier and won a very impressive game. I mean, that team showed out against a Big East opponent that has an NBA level player in Desmond Claude. They have some skilled young freshmen, some guys that were in the CUSA last year, and a Xavier team that was sitting 32nd in KenPom heading into that game. People really question if Oakland was going to be a real contender in the Horizon League this year after losing Jalen Moore and a couple of other important pieces, but they're going to be. Trey Townsend, 27 points. He is one of the better big men, if not the best big man in that conference. And you had a guy like Jack Gelke, who takes a three-point attempt on nearly every single one of his shots, which I know Trilly Donovan pointed out a couple of last week, and then he proceeded to shoot 2-2-pointers at the exact same day. So maybe he did it out of spite, but he is an elite three-point shooter. You have Rocket Watts, you have Tone Hunter, who's a great defender. I like this Oakland team, and that upset really put them on the radar for a serious contender in the Horizon League for me.
Yeah, and I think Greg Campi, he's one of the longest tenured coaches in college basketball, period.
The longest at his university now, Jim Boeheim, who now Field of 68 alum Jim Boeheim. So
yeah, he's Field of 68. He was just on earlier this week.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think, from coaching in that league in Horizon, had a chance to coach against Coach Campi. They got one of the best home floors. They got the black floor, really cool setup. Got a great fan base, and again, he knows what he's doing. He's had a lot of guys go on to the next level and play had NBA guards. He's got a system that's very player friendly and does a good job of allowing his players to play within freedom and still play with that edge and that toughness and that kind of underdog mentality that he carries with him. So I love that win for them, and excited to see what they do on the Horizon. For me, a breakout team that I'd like to talk about is UIC. They played really well to start the year. I've gotten some big wins. They got the in-town win against Loyola, which is a big deal there in Chicago. Beat Middle Tennessee by 30 when they were ranked in our top 25 and had been playing some good basketball. So that was a decisive win. And they beat George Washington in the semis, and then they played UNCG in the finals and lost, in a really close game by 1. So very easily could be champions of that event, had maybe one ball bounce a different way. But Isaiah
foul on the final possession probably gets you there.
That would help too. I wasn't going to go there. I'll let
Yeah,
you
get a stop with 10 seconds left. That probably gets you there.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm sure, but I'm sure they'll learn from that. You know, they got a chance to have a good team. Isaiah Rivera is a transfer from Colorado State. He's playing some really good basketball. And just the way that they're playing, they're able to score. And they scored 89 in the semis. They score not even 60 in the championship game. Part of that's the grind of playing so many days in a row. But I think this team can win a variety of ways and has a chance to really make some noise as well in the same league as they're kind of knocking on the door to being a team that receives some votes for the top 25.
And let's let this lead us into our next topic where we're going to discuss the Missouri Valley a little bit. Drake took their first loss of the season last week. Bradley still undefeated. Indiana State looks really impressive. They pulled off a nice win over the weekend against Toledo. Obviously, we mentioned Evansville. We've mentioned UIC. Is there a team right now that is better than Drake in this conference? You told me earlier you have one. So who's your team that's better than Drake?
I mean, I think right now Bradley's the best team in this league. I think Drake has a chance. Of course, they have the pedigree. They won. They've done what they've done in the past. But as of right now, Bradley is they're just the best team in this league and how they're playing. They're number 3 on our Cinderella top 25 for good reason. They just come off of winning the event out in SoCal, and a battle-tested team. They're tough on the defensive end, but also really good on the offensive end. I love their length. They're in the interior. I've been able to watch them play a couple of times now. And I love, too, that they have multiple guys that can be leading scorers on this team. They're definitely a team that you can tell they don't care who gets the credit and not afraid to, again, play a grind style of basketball. But they also, if they need to get up and down and run with you, they can do that. So I love what I see from this team. They look like a team that's focused on something bigger, and they look like a team that feels like they have a chip on their shoulder. Maybe they're not getting the attention that they want to get, but I'm excited to see what they continue to do as they go forward, because they look like a team that if they stay healthy, they're going to be tough to beat.
Honestly, for me, if I had to tell you one team right now that's going to win this conference, I'm still going to go with Drake. But the one reason that I have some pause about what Drake's done so far is last year they were really good defensively. They were a top 50 team in Ken Palm's defensive efficiency, and this year they just haven't defended at all. 150 in defensive efficiency, but their offense has been pretty solid, 57th. Obviously, when you have a guy like Tucker DeVries, he's the best player in this conference, probably the best player in mid-major basketball in general. I mean, this dude can play anywhere, but obviously his dad coaches there, so that's why he's there. You have other pieces like Atten Wright, who hasn't quite gotten going, but he is going to be a really important player for this team to impact the offense. He's 15 points per game, a little better than I had thought, but Kevin Overton's been a great player for them as a freshman. He's averaging 14 points per game. You have Darnell Brody inside, but the scoring is just so top heavy, averaging 80 points per game as a team. But outside of your top 4 scorers who all average double figures, you're not getting much in the scoring department from anybody else. I mean, Kyron Gibson, who transferred from UT Arlington, he's averaging less than 1 point per game. He's made like one field goal this whole year. He hasn't made a single 3-point shot. He averaged double figures last year. So that's a guy I figured would be a part of this rotation. He's really not. Connor Enright has taken whatever role Gibson was going to have. And Ethan Roberts, the Army transfer, he hasn't played at all. I think he's injured. So coming into the year, the idea of what I thought this Drake team would be is a lot different than it currently is. And the ever-changing pieces you have with losing all the seniors last year, a lot of those guys are really good defenders, and now you have to replace them, and you have to get guys to buy in. I think that takes time, and it could happen over time. Who knows? But when you're losing a guy like DJ Wilkins and Garrett Sturtz, those aren't guys you can just replace easily. So Darian DeVries has to figure out what the identity is for this team. Are they going to be a offensive first team and just let it fly? Or are they going to be able to figure out on the defensive end enough to where they're going to be somewhere in the middle? They're a really good offensive team, but they're a passable defensive team instead of a pretty bad defensive team. That's going to be the key for this Drake team moving forward. But I still think they're the best team in this league.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're hitting on some good things. I think it takes time to be able to get new pieces to come together. Again, I like Bradley because of the fact I think they can really defend at a high level, like you mentioned, that Drake's not doing yet, but they also can score, averaging 75 a game, which is enough to win you any game as long as you can defend. But I think, as we talked about, Indiana State and Evansville are the two teams that's surprising. And I misspoke on UIC. I forgot that they have moved up to the Missouri Valley from the Horizon, so they are now a part of that league. Excuse me on that mishap. But Yeah, Indiana State's averaging 89 points a game. They're definitely a team that can score with the best of them. They've played really well. They're now in our Cinderella top 25 and in Evansville, as well as we will see early tests. This league starts, I believe, is it today?
Today, as we're recording it, Tuesday.
Today is the day that they start the league. They start league play. So we got some really good matchups out of the gate. I think Missouri State's always tough. We haven't talked about them. They're 5-1 and they play Evansville today. So that's going to be a big time. Tomorrow. They actually play tomorrow. Indiana State plays today. So yeah, there's going to be some really.
They play each other, I think, though, don't they?
I'm not sure Indiana State plays. I know Evansville plays Missouri State. We can get back to you on that. But regardless, this league is going to be as good as the Missouri Valley has been in quite some time. And the interesting part is always trying to think of, like, can one of these teams, as Loyola did at one point in time, get in the top 25? Can it be a two-bid league again? Is that something that the Valley can have?
No, that's not happening this year. I just don't see it. I wish, but you have to be so good to get there. You have to be a team that's top 50 in Ken Pom, and maybe Bradley gets there, but Drake already has a loss to Stephen F. Austin by 20. That's going to hurt their analytics moving forward. And the margin for error when you're in a league like this is so slim because let's say you lose to a team that's bottom 3 in the league. Even if they're solid for the league standards, they're still not going to be great in the net ranking. If you lose that game at home, that's probably a quadrant 4 loss. On the road, probably a quadrant 3/quadrant 4 loss in the system that the NCAA uses to pick their teams for the bracket. So I'm going to say this is a one-bid league all the way. There's going to be some really good teams, probably a couple NIT teams, but there's going to be some really good teams here that don't play in the NCAA tournament. That's just the reality of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, unfortunately, with the way the NIT is changing, which we talked about that in the opening episode, we don't need to get back in that road right now, but we don't even know what that's going to look like because they're trying to change the format of the NIT. I will ask this question as we close on the Missouri Valley and talk about the top 2 teams on the Cinderella poll really quickly. What is your thoughts on, can either team, Liberty or JMU, Liberty, who is in the top 50 in Ken Pom, as you mentioned, and JMU, who is in the top 25 for the AP poll, do they have a chance to get at-large bids this season?
I'm going to say James Madison, no. I know they have the win over Michigan State, which will carry weight the whole season. They're a great offensive team, but that defense is not good enough to have them pretty much go through Sunbelt play unscathed. They play some really good teams. Like App State's really good, and they might end up being just as good, if not better, than this James Madison team because of the way they're able to defend. They have 2 really good bigs. I like that App State team a lot. I don't think James Madison can get there. Their metrics aren't great either. But Liberty, on the other hand, I think they could. I mean, they'll face some tough teams like Louisiana Tech. Western Kentucky always has some toughness to them. UTEP, obviously, but Liberty is a really good team. They sit 39th in Ken Pom ahead of Iowa, Kansas State, Virginia, Xavier, Pittsburgh, like a lot of teams who are legitimate high major programs. And Liberty has a chance to be an at-large team. They obviously have to do their work. And you know what? They have a really good opportunity ahead of them. They'll be playing FAU and the College of Charleston coming up, which we'll talk about that here very, very shortly. But if they're able to win one of those games, preferably the FAU game, I think Liberty has a great chance to be an at-large contender this season. But let's lead right into that. The Field of 68 tip-off, obviously, that's the network we're broadcasting the show on. They're hosting an event with the College of Charleston, FAU, and Liberty. It's a great chance for those 3 schools who aren't in the top tier conferences to get a chance to bolster their NCAA tournament resume, get a chance for the public eye to see all of them play. It's a great event, and it's a great way for those teams to build more chances to get closer to the NCAA tournament. That's really what Liberty has sitting ahead of them. So what are you most looking forward to in this event?
I think all of the games, we got to be honest and say that College of Charleston isn't at the same level that they were last year.
But they're getting back, though. They beat Kent State the other day. They were shooting it well.
The biggest thing, and you touched on this, we've had this conversation offline, the biggest thing for College of Charleston, I'll talk about the biggest thing for each team, and then I think I'll tell you what I'm excited about. The biggest thing for College of Charleston, they must make 10 threes or more to give themselves a chance.
It's a great call.
They've made 10 threes or more. They made 7 against Duquesne, 7 against Wyoming, resulted in losses. They made like just 2 or 3 against Vermont, didn't get the job done.
Don't look at that box score. It was bad.
It was ugly. But against Kent State, they made 13 threes. In that win and in their last win, they had 17 threes. They shot 43 threes.
It's a great call.
The huge part of their game is they got to make threes and they got to make shots. They're shooting 27% from three on the year. They're shooting, I think, sub 40 for the year.
It was 18% before their last two games. So that just shows
that shows how much is going up. Yeah. So when they make shots, they have a chance. And granted, we know Pat Kelsey enough and the edge that he coaches with. He's going to want to prove that his team really does belong. So it's an opportunity for them too. And they obviously were top 25 last year. I think FAU getting that Bryant loss out of their way was the biggest key for them. They are playing at home in this event. I think just continuing to ride the wave. They had a big-time week beating Texas A&M, which was a huge win for them. Then followed up, and they dominate Virginia Tech.
Hammered them. Yeah, that game wasn't close.
Absolutely dominated them. So I think the fact they're playing that well, they won that tournament that they were in. Now they're coming back home. They kind of got the monkey off their back, and they're playing great basketball again. So I think just continuing to be who they've been, and now they're coming home. Liberty is the team to watch. Liberty has a chance to be the FAU or the College of Charleston of last year. FAU wasn't ranked during the season last year. College of Charleston was. FAU goes to the Final Four, and Liberty's been this fantastic mid-major, and now they're going up to Conference USA. You talked about their metrics already, and they have one of the best players in the country, who I'll let you dive into as well, who's already been somebody we've recognized a ton. And so, yeah, I think the Liberty versus FAU game is the game. That's the Thursday game. It's coming up really quickly, and what happens after that is important, but that's the game of the top two teams in this event.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think Liberty has the most to gain here. And the biggest key for them is being able to handle the physicality of FAU, because all these teams are going to play each other. They have to handle the physicality of FAU's guards. They want to get up. They want to pressure you. And their guards are smaller. Colin Porter, Caden Matheny, Brody Peebles. Those are all smaller guards, but they're all skilled. They can really shoot it. They're all smart. That's why they play in that system. But they have to be able to handle the physicality from Janelle Davis and Brandon Weatherspoon and Jalen Gaffney and Elijah Martin. They have to be able to handle that. And if they aren't, it's going to be a long night for them, but they can shoot the lights out of the building if they're dealing with the physicality enough. They're a really good team and one to watch. Kyler Rote, obviously an absolute baller. I think Liberty's got a real chance to come out of this event undefeated. And if so, they need to be ranked next week nationally and in the real discussion for an at-large bid. For the College of Charleston, like you said, but I'll expand on it a tiny bit and go more specifically. Rain Smith needs to be making threes. He had 21 points with 5 threes against Kent State, a game in which it looked like Charleston last year. Anytime Kent State made a run, Charleston made a run. They looked really comfortable in that one. Their point guard play is a big question, but Jordan Crawford, a freshman, came in and really produced. CJ Fulton has to get it going, but Rain Smith was awesome. He's the biggest key to this Charleston offense. And for the Florida Atlantic Owls, Elijah Martin.
He had 6 threes in the next game, 5 and 1 and 6.
Yeah, okay. So 11 in the last 2. It's pretty good. Pretty good. And speaking of another guy that has to get it going, and he did get it going recently, it's Elijah Martin. I mean, this guy is one of the best players in the country. He was hurt in the preseason. He missed all their exhibitions and all that. He was bad against Bryant. 7 points, 3 turnovers. That's not Elijah Martin. Against Texas A&M, 25 points, 7 rebounds, and they scored 96 points. Their defense wasn't there, but their offense was as good as it was last season. And then they played their first complete game of the year, a game where you're like, okay, this is the FAU we saw last year. They were elite on the defensive end. Their pressure is getting to the guards, and they were making shots. It was against Virginia Tech, 17 points, 8 boards, 4 assists. When you're having that kind of performance on both ends of the floor, you can be one of the best teams in the country. And that's exactly what we saw from FAU over the weekend and the ESPN Events Invitational, especially against Virginia Tech. So if they're bringing that kind of intensity, I'm going to say FAU could beat just about anybody in the country. I think Liberty has a chance to come out of this event unbeaten, but I think FAU is going to ultimately be the team that goes 2-0. I think Liberty beats Charleston, and I guess that would make Charleston 0-2 in the event. But I think Charleston has a bright future ahead.
Yeah, this event is the event that I'm looking forward to watching. 68 this Thursday, Friday, Saturday. What are you looking forward to most as we close out the show? As far as games coming up.
Man, that's a tough one, because that was going to be my pick, because obviously you just have more than one game. But let me expand a little further here. Let's see. I have my schedule in front of me. Let's go on Friday. Southern Miss against UAB is an interesting one. Obviously, we don't rank UAB in this poll now, but UAB against Southern Miss. Southern Miss had a really good win a couple of days ago against South Dakota State. I like what they had with Austin Crowley. Donovan Ivory has been really impressive so far this year. And UAB, they just love playing close games. They get McNeese State as we're recording, so we'll know the result by then. But Eric Gaines, they have Lendenborg down low. He's an absolute baller. You have Javian Davis. They have a ton of size. It's going to be interesting to see how Southern Miss deals with that size because they don't quite have the bodies that they had last year. But Victory Wacko is a really good player for them in that front court, transfer from UNLV. So I'm curious to see how Southern Miss is able to handle UAB's intensity. It's going to be a big test for them as they look to contend in the Sun Belt once again this year.
Yeah, looking forward to all the action. We'll be back again. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on social media. Any last words from Sean Paul as we look forward to having you guys follow and subscribe, and we keep covering the mid-major level.
I mean, just follow the show Twitter account at the field of 68_MM. You can follow me on Twitter at Sean Paul CBB and follow him on Twitter at Coach Burton 13. Is there an underscore in there somewhere?
No underscore.
Nope. Coach Burton 13. And then just follow the Field of 68 overall Twitter account, the just main one at the Field of 68 for all the content you need moving forward in the college basketball season.